Hey everyone, Mark here. Welcome back to the channel. We are once more headed to Deuce's Poker for a tournament. After watching this video, you do find yourself having enjoyed it, then please leave a like. If you have comments on any of the plays I made, I'd be really interested to hear that too. But that's enough talking. Let's go to the action and I'll catch you guys later. I didn't record the beginning of the hand, but we joined the action at level 2. Blinds are 5100 and we have our starting stack of 10,000. We're in the under the gun position. We raise to 600. The +1 player calls, small blind folds, big blind calls. We go 3 ways to the flop with 1.8k in the pot. The flop comes 2-10-9 with 2 spades. The big blind checks. We c-bet for 1200. +1 player calls, big blind calls. We go 3 ways to the turn, 5.4k in the pot. The turn is the deuce of hearts, the big blind checks, we bet 2500, +1 jams for a little over 5k. The big blind folds, we call, we show pocket jacks, the +1 player shows 9-6 of clubs, we're going heads up to the river with 15.5k in the pot. Turn is the queen of clubs, we hold up, we pick up a nice pot, and things are off to a good start. In this next hand, we look down at pocket aces. There is a limp under the gun, the small blind player raises to 300, we make it 1200, and both players fold. We're now at level 3, blinds 100, 200, when we look down at ace-king offsuit in the small blind. The under the gun +1 player limps for 200, so does the middle position player and the button. We make it 800. The big blind folds, the +1 player calls, and both the middle position and button player folds. We go heads up to the flop with 2.2k in the pot. The flop comes king 6 deuce rainbow, and I elect to check with top pair here, both for deception and to protect my checking range. The under the gun +1 player checks back. The turn comes another king, which makes it less likely that I am holding a king. I decide to lead here for 600, and the under the gun +1 player calls. The river comes the 9 of clubs, and when the player called us on the turn on this very dry board, I'm thinking perhaps he has a king or maybe a middling pair, and I want to get value from my trips. So I bait 1800, and the under the gun +1 player starts grabbing his stack like he's about to jam. Please jam. Please jam. Please jam. Unfortunately, he folds, and we pick up the pot. In this next hand, we look down at king-queen offsuit in the cutoff. Action folds to us, we make it 600. The small blind calls to 600. The big blind 3-bets to 2200. We're in position, so we decide to call the 2200. The small blind comes along. We go 3 ways to the flop with 6.6k in the pot. The flop comes jack ace queen with 2 hearts, the small blind checks, and the big blind jams for a little over 7,000, which is an overbet to the pot. This is our first difficult decision of the night. We have second pair, a gut shot straight draw, and a backdoor nut flush draw. But even if the player has a random ace, there's still 2-1 to win. And even though we feel like we're probably getting bluffed here, there's going to be a lot of better spots for us to get all our chips in and double up. So we decide to fold. The small blind folds, and the big blind shows 5-6 of diamonds for the stone cold bluff with 0 equity. We say nice hand, and we add their name to our mental revenge list. With blinds now at 200, 400, we are under the gun and we look down at ace-10 offsuit. We open up the action to 800. It folds to the button who calls, the small blind folds, and the big blind comes along. We go 3 ways to a flop with 2.6k in the pot. The flop comes queen 7 with 2 diamonds, and I throw a small bet of 1,000, which I like to do as the pre-flop aggressor on a paired board. It's hard for our opponents to have connected with this board, so we can take it down easily. I would also throw this bet if I was holding a queen sometimes in the interest of staying balanced. Things go to plan when the button folds. The big blind, however, has different plans and min raises us to 2k. This is another spot where I feel like we're probably getting bluffed. We could call and hit a king, a jack, or a diamond on which we would continue to the river. However, I just decide to give up here and wait for a better spot. The big blind shows jack deuce of diamonds for a flush draw, and he becomes the second honorary member of our mental revenge list. We join the action on the flop. In this hand, it's a battle of the blinds. The flop comes 8-8-5, and we have 6-3 offsuit. Action checks through on the flop, and the turn comes the 4 diamonds, bringing us an open-ender. The small blind checks in the dark. We have an open-ender, but we only have 6 high, so it's about time that we try to take this pot down. We bet 600, and the small blind folds, claiming that we were most likely ahead, which is difficult because the only hand we are ahead with at this point is deuce 3, so we'll call that a successful bluff and the beginning of our revenge. In this next hand, we're on the button and we look down at pocket fours. The action folds to the cutoff, who makes it 2,000. We call the 2,000. Both blinds fold. We go heads up to the flop with 4.6k in the pot. The flop comes Jack 6 jacks with 2 clubs. No continuation bet from the cutoff. We have showdown value, so no need to bluff. We check back. The cutoff now bets 2,000 in the dark, and the turn comes the 9 of diamonds. I try not to go with my gut too often, but my instinct tells me that my pocket fours are still good. I call. The river is the worst river possible. It is the 9 of clubs, which pairs the board, and now any card higher than a 7 in our opponent's hand beats us. Surprisingly, our opponent checks to us, and now we have 2 options. We could bet, get snapped, and lose some chips, or we could check and live at least a while, and dying in our bed many years from now, we would be willing to trade all the days from this to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our opponent that they may take our chips, but they'll never take our freedom. We bet 3,500, they fold ace king suited, get wrecked. We're now entering level 5 with blinds at 300, 600. We're in the mid blind and we look down at pocket queens. Hello, ladies. We see 3 limpers, under the gun +1, and the cutoff. The small blind folds, it gets to us. We make it 1,800. Under the gun and under the gun +1 player fold. The cutoff calls. We go heads up to the flop with 5.7k in the pot. The flop comes 9 king deuce rainbow. We're out of position. We don't see bet here because we're never getting a king to fold if our opponent happens to hold one. So we check, they check back. The turn brings the 8 of spades. We feel a little bit better about our queens. There's also a lot more hands that we can get value from now. So I bet 2,000. The cutoff folds. We take down the pot. Still at level 5, we're in middle position. We look down at ace queen offsuit. There's a limp under the gun. We raise it to 2,000 and everybody folds. Still in level 5, we're in the big blind. We get dealt pocket queens once again. Love to see it. It folds around to the button, who makes it 2,000. We raise it to 6,000 and they fold. In this next hand, we're on the cutoff and we look down at king queen suited. There's a limp under the gun +1. We make it 1,600. The blinds fold and the under the gun +1 player calls. We go heads up with 4.1k in the pot. The flop comes 4-5-3 with 2 diamonds. Under the gun +1 player checks to us. I decide to down bet here to 1,200, just as I would if I was holding a big pocket pair. The under the gun +1 player raises us to 2,700. In this particular spot, since I'm holding clubs and not diamonds, I decide to give up and just wait for a better spot. Given that our pre-flop raises have been getting a lot of respect, we decide to raise here to 1,600 from under the gun +1, holding 9-10 of spades. Only the small blind calls and we go heads up to the flop, which comes deuce ace 9 with 2 hearts. The small blind checks to us, and given that we've paired our 9 and we have a backdoor spade draw, we decide to check back for now. The turn comes the queen of diamonds. The small blind bets 1,200. There's a number of draws available on the board, so I get a little bit sticky with my pair of 9s here and I call. The river comes the 8 of hearts, which completes both straights and flush draws. The small blind checks to us. I think if I didn't have any showdown value and with my stack size, I could have definitely tried a bluff on this river, but I decided to check back and the small blind shows us an ace, which I'm not sure they would have folded anyway. On to the next hand. We enter level 6, which is the end of the rebuy period. People can get an add-on, and you can see the prizes up there. $535 for first place for a $30 buy-in. Not too shabby. We actually do not play a hand for this entire level, so we joined the action back at level 7 with blinds at 500, 1,000, and we look down at king queen offsuit in the big blind. Action folds around to the small blind, who makes it 2,500. We complete, and we go heads up to a flop with 5k in the pot. The flop comes queen 8-7 rainbow. Small blind checks to us and I decide to check back for deception. The turn comes the 5 of diamonds. The small blind bets 1,000. We min raise to 2,000 and they call. We go to the river with 9k in the pot. The river comes the 6 of spades. The small blind checks to us. We try to extract a little bit of value from our top pair by betting 2,000. Unfortunately, the small blind folds and we pick up the pot. We're now in level 8 with blinds at 1,000, 2,000. We're in the big blind. Action folds to the button, who makes it 5,000. The small blind folds. We look down at 7-8 of clubs, a very playable hand. Despite being quite short stacked here with 15 big blinds, we decide to defend and go to a flop. We are heads up, 11k in the pot. The flop comes ace 6 deuce with 2 spades. We check. the button checks back. The turn comes the 8 of diamonds, pairing our 8, which is great. We check, the button decides to jam for 18.5k, a massive overbet compared to the 11k in the pot, and this is over 2/3 of our stack. This is a super rough spot. There's 2 flush draws on the board, some straight draws possible. I feel pretty good about our 8, but if we call and we're wrong here, we're left crippled and we'll basically be all in very shortly. While if I fold, I still have a decent stack. I can still make some moves and pick up some chips and possibly make a deep run. Feeling like I might be getting bluffed here. This is just a horrible spot to be in, so kudos to our opponent for putting us into the blender. Let's fast forward through the footage. We decide to fold after about a minute and a half of tanking, and our opponent says that they had 8 deuce. Not sure what to make of that since they raised pre-flop on the button, but a very difficult spot. In this hand, we look down at ace-10 offsuit from the big blind. Action folds around to the small blind, who makes it 9,000. And with 13 big blinds in our stack, we decide to rejam all in. The small blind does not snap call us, which is always good to see. But after tanking for a while, they do call, and we're up against ace-7, a great spot for us. Let's hold up. Let's go to a showdown. The flop is a pretty safe 3 jack-9 with 2 diamonds. The turn is a 10, which gives us a pair, but gives our opponent a gut shot. No runner, bad beat. The river is a brick. We almost double up and knock our opponent out of the tournament. GG. We're now at level 9 with blinds at 2,000, 4,000, and we are on the button. We look down at 6-8 suited. The button is all in for 5k. The small blind completes the 3k. We complete the 1k, and we go 3 ways to a flop. Let's try to knock out a player. The flop comes 10-4 deuce rainbow, and as expected, both the small blind and myself check. The turn comes the 5 of diamonds, and again, we both check. The river comes the deuce of hearts. We both check. Let's go to a showdown. The button was all in with queen 3 of clubs and busts. The small blind shows ace high and wins the pot. With this player being eliminated, we now move to the final table. Let's go. With blinds at 2,000, 4,000, we look down at ace king offsuit with just about 10 big blinds in our stack. The player in the low jack position raises to 13,000. We have the easiest jam in the world. That's what we do. We go all in, and now the low jack player goes in a tank. Let's fast forward through the footage. Our opponent tanks for a solid minute here, so we're feeling comfortable with ace king offsuit. They end up calling, and so we're going heads up to a showdown. They show pocket 9s. Let's try to hit an ace or a king. Let's go. Let's deep run this tournament. The flop is super safe for 9s. 3-4-4 with 2 clubs. Come on, ace or king. Ace or king. Yeah. Jack. Ace or king. Come on. Ace or king. Ace or king. Ace. Deuce of diamonds. We bust. It's over for us. GG. So there you have it. Once again, we busted short of the money. We did go and play some cash games afterwards, and we ended up minus $7 on the evening. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you have feedback, please leave a comment. And if you want to support myself and the channel even more and be notified when a new video comes out, then please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in vlog number 4. Peace.